So much for dialing in. We're really excited to have this webinar with you today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mark Ackroyd. I'm the head of customer success here at Lumiant. I'm joined by Chris Darday, our chief product and technology officer. I've also got on the call Elise Little, our customer success manager here in Australia, who you all know really well, and Ash Plaskett, our global head of marketing, or Ash Lockett. For those of you that don't know, Ash has recently returned from getting married over in England. So we're celebrating that with him at the moment. And it's good to have him back on this side of the fence, a married man. So today, everyone, we've called this webinar and we've launched this webinar for you because we've had some really exciting things going on at Lumiant. And late Friday afternoon, we launched some really exciting features that we know will add a ton of value to your practices and help you empower your clients to live their best lives confidently. But we wanted to make sure that whilst we release them for you, we do so in a manner that gives you the opportunity to learn them. And that's what this webinar is for. So thank you for dialing in. The recording will be made available after this. But if you've got any questions of the features, today's the day for you to ask them as well. So the basic format of today, our Q&A box down the bottom of the screen is always going to be open. So as we're taking you through the features, Elise is on hand to manage our Q&A and will interrupt me or Chris where necessary if we're just going on and rambling for your questions. But what we're going to go through, I'm going to hand shortly over to Chris to talk about a little bit about our development cycle here at Lumiant, what it means to be part of the Lumiant community and our constant innovation structure here and how we really want to be releasing these features early and often for you so that you can get in and maximize the value for your clients. We're then going to go into each feature that we've launched in the last week. So we're going to take you through the governance module. We're going to take you through key advice areas, our in-app notifications feature, and we're going to squeeze in a couple features that we've launched recently before the last one. So our Your Life version 2.0 and our Values 2.0 upgrades, because there's a couple things that we've sort of taken a lot of you through already, but we want to make sure that we sweep through and get those features into your hands safely. So with that, Chris, I might hand over to you. One of the things that we pride ourselves here on at Lumiant is that we are an innovative company. We are one that, we believe are at the forefront of where the advice industry is heading. And we want to make sure that we manage and match that belief system with the way that we handle our features and our launches and releases here at Lumiant. As Chief Product and Technology Officer, that's obviously something that you're really passionate about and sits within your control. Can you tell us a little bit about, for our customers, what that means and what they can come to expect from Lumiant?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, awesome and really well put, Mark, in terms of, we do want to be on the forefront of the way that we talk to and deliver both product and technology kind of hand in hand. And I think it's fair to say that we consider ourselves incredibly lucky to be working with so many forward-thinking and innovative clients, which only kind of helps us to kind of push the boundaries of what's possible. Our approach, and we kind of want to do very quickly kind of cover that off, is really about co-design. We've got a whole lot of ideas about what's possible, and the team has been busy for the last few months building a number of key foundational pieces. The way I kind of describe them to the team is as Lego blocks. We want to get a nice strong foundation, and then we want to be able to kind of plug additional capabilities on top. That way we're effectively building on top of that strong foundation and consistently giving you new capabilities, new functionality, additional value that you can obviously leverage yourselves and obviously provide to your clients. And it really kind of talks to this whole idea of doing a co-design. So, we don't know all the answers, that's why we have all of you. And, we run kind of innovation hubs and pilot groups and a whole range of, research and development programs to learn more about this. We obviously have a strong view about where we would like to push things, but this gives us a really great way of validating that and also introducing new ways of thinking about all those sort of concepts. So from a pure kind of product and technology point of view, we followed the methodology of release early, release often. And what that really kind of points to is this saying that I've been hearing quite a bit recently, which is progress over perfection. We could sit here and work on something for the next 18 months until it was quote unquote perfect, and you still wouldn't get there, right? Because there's always more that can be done. On the other side, we don't want to put buggy functionality that hasn't been thoroughly tested. We want to find that nice balance in between where we can build a really strong foundation for a new idea, get it into the hands of our users for their feedback, and then just continually iterate over that functionality. And so it's all about trying to get a minimal viable and a minimal lovable product into the market, and then kind of building and shaping it as we kind of evolve. So what you'll see and what you'll hear from us in this webinar is on a number of features, three initially, where we've basically built that very strong foundation. We've tested it, we've validated it. We feel that it's definitely in that minimal lovable phase, and we're really happy to kind of share it with all of you. And also to kind of get feedback on, okay, where do we start taking this? How far do we actually want to go? As well as how do we want to prioritize that? There's a whole range of things. Where do we kind of start focusing our time and energy? So that kind of helps us build a strong foundation on top of which we can build the other components.
Yeah, it's coming from big corporate life myself and coming into the fintech world, it's that real trade-off and that real shift in thinking between that long-term development, long-term planning, and deliver once every 6 months, once every 12 months, versus releasing often and getting it into people's hands, right, Chris? It's a real choice by us to not move down that path. I know a lot of companies do, right?
Yeah, and perfectly said, Mark. What we've done is we've actually restructured the team recently, just for kind of a bit of inside knowledge, to kind of have two kind of streams of development. One, which is the slower, more strategic, bigger project work, and one more on product refinement. So that way we can get your feedback and kind of push out changes, push out small fixes, push out small enhancements and additional value on a very regular basis. That way you're still getting the full stability of the platform, but you're seeing some of those smaller enhancements on a more regular basis rather than waiting for quarterly or semi-annual cycles. So we find that I think that will give us a great balance of pushing that innovation angle whilst ensuring that we always maintain a very reliable, efficient, stable, secure platform under the hood.
Yeah, and what I love about what we're doing here and the culture that you lead in product and tech is, we take our own view, right? We know where we want our product to go. We develop use cases that we test with our innovation hub. We test them internally. We test them with people that are actively asking us for stuff as well. And then we also take sort of feature requests and improvement requests from features that are already in production or live for customers, so that we can continue to iterate. And some of the features we'll talk about today, so Your Life version 2, Values version 2, are probably great examples of that, where we went out to market with good foundations. And since hearing and seeing these use cases and how people want to stretch those features and use those features in real life examples, we can now make iterations and enhancements that only make that same feature even better, right?
Spot on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So with that, let's get into some of these features. So the first one off the bat, as Ash gets this little video up, is governance. So this is something that's been a long time coming, I think, Chris, and we'll loop this video for people. But tell us a little bit about the intent of governance and what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so look, this was one of those things where, when we first started Lumiant and we kind of thought about all the capabilities that we needed in there, we never really kind of thought about governance in that kind of first iteration of what Lumiant was supposed to be and do. What we found over time, though, is that we were starting to collect a lot of really valuable data about clients, about different aspects of, of their lives in all the different modules. So, we were collecting which dimensions of well-being are important to them. We were understanding their values. We were collecting retirement information and goals and a whole range of other information. And what we found is that actually we needed a central hub for all this information. One, so that you would have a single place where all this information could be captured and managed, maintained. But also because that central hub then allows you to power other modules across the platform. So, we talk about Best Life and its capabilities. That started off in a reasonably simple fashion, talking about, what the client and what the partner own. Now with governance in place, and as the video will show you, we now include things like tax structures and legal entities in there, as well as all of your balance sheet and profit and loss type of items. So we cover off assets, liabilities, incomes, expenses. We cover off insurance policies, as well as estate planning needs, everything from your will to your powers of attorney, powers of guardianship, and everything else in between. All of that is kind of linked through to our vault. So if you have a will, you can store it in the vault. If it's not in the vault, if it's not a digital version, you can basically provide information about where it's stored, who the attorney is, when it was last reviewed. But the beauty of having that information in the central place is now in Best Life, we can start having a much more sophisticated algorithm, because we know which assets and which liabilities and which income streams are actually owned by which particular entity. Is it the individual? Is it the household? Or is it one of their trusts or one of the companies that they actually manage? So this is just a really nice way of kind of bringing in all that data into a single place. As you can see, and as we kind of mentioned, what we've done so far is we've built that really strong foundation for having that data in there. Separately to this, we've got a number of integrations with Salesforce Xplan and a couple of integrations in the US, in order to automatically bring in as much of this data into the Lumiant platform as possible, so that you're never having to enter it in more than once. Wherever your source of truth for this data happens to be, it will be brought into Lumiant. If there's anything missing, or you want a whole of wealth view here, you can utilize Yodlee to bring in other assets, other insurance policies, other items held with financial institutions that might be outside of the area that you're advising on, but basically having a single view of all that information. Following on from this, we've got the designs actually already in place. It's just a matter of developing it, but basically trying to bring all this really great and really rich data to life. And that is through kind of visualizations. So bringing up a family tree, so that you can kind of see what and who and how they're all interrelated. Having an asset tree, so that you can visualize everything from cash flows and those sort of things, and then down to your estate planning and legacy tree, which is all about trying to have a single view into, who are your beneficiaries, and where are all of those things actually coming from. So one of the pieces of feedback that we received very early on was that information is obviously available, but there's no way, there's no aggregate, there's no single on a page view of all of that information. So what we're trying to do here is grab all the data and then kind of visualize it, so that you can have a really easy to see way of all those aspects that pertain to everything within your household, including all the tax structures that you manage.
Yeah, so I think I've heard you reference governance as Lumiant's central processing unit, right? It's the place where everything sort of sucks in and then goes out, which I think is a really cool feature for us to have at Lumiant. As you mentioned, with the future thought here to get it to link out or go out to Best Life, eventually turn this, what some, especially non-financial spouses, would say is quite boring data and turn it into something more meaningful through visualizations. So things like family trees, asset trees, so that I can engage with it better as the end client. I mean, the opportunities are endless when you link this through through our future plans with integrating into Xplan, Salesforce, and the other CRMs we've got on our list, to sort of have that one-time touch, whether it's in Lumiant when you're with a client, or in the system that you use right now to come into Lumiant if you're just working behind the scenes. That's this foundation sets us up for that, right? So I think that's really helpful. So today, right, with governance, our current feature set, how would you describe that, Chris? We're looking at the current feature set here. So if I'm logging on today, I haven't quite gone into governance yet. What could I expect to do?
So from we're kind of the best way to kind of describe it is the capability is data capture, right? The whole idea is all of the information that we have previously collected about the client and their partner has already kind of flown through into governance. So you'll never come here and not see anything, because at least you'll get the client information. If they've completed investment preferences, you'll straight away see the risk profile, for example. You'll start getting a few additional capabilities where you'll now be able to set a risk profile per individual. So not just for the household itself, but also for the individual. You'll be able to define risk profiles in different ways. So not just how they were assessed, but maybe how they were directed. So the client has completed a questionnaire. They were seen as balanced. Maybe there was a conversation after the fact to kind of position them in a slightly different risk profile. All of that information can be captured. The other really nice thing about this, and this is kind of going into CRM territory, but it's really just to kind of once again centralize all the information that you need about your clients in one place. We've got that notes tab across all of those modals that, as you would have seen. And we've kind of split notes into two kind of areas. One is notes that you do want the client to see, and one which is more for administrative purposes. So this is notes that you are holding about that particular client, that particular asset, that particular risk profile, what it may be, but it's for staff purposes only. So the whole idea here is let's capture all this data, and as a platform, we're going to look at different ways of trying to entice people to as you mentioned, Mark, to fill out this boring data, because it is, right. No one wants to be filling in data, but the real kind of goal, the outcome, the North Star of all of this will be that by putting in all this information, you're going to get a lot of illustrations and visualizations around the data that you've entered in, but also then we will actually be able to drive some actionable insights off the back of it. So really core foundation of data capture, on top of which we are going to now start up all the visualization work, etc.
Absolutely. And, the great thing here is, like all of Lumiant, it's the place where the advisor and client can coexist. So a client can equally log in and update their data as well, and fill it out for you, depending on your advice experience that you're looking to achieve for your client. You may get a client to do this before a meeting. You might co-create, do it with a client. Your opportunities are there to engage with it how you wish. Look, we might move to our next feature now. Look, if there's any Q&A about governance, you haven't missed your time, load them up in there, and we'll do a bit of a sweep towards the end. If you want to know where we want to take it next, you want to ask any questions about current functionality, does it capture a certain field, let us know. Put it all in that Q&A box down the bottom. But next for us, we want to talk about the key advice areas, Chris, which was another sort of gap for us when we're looking at that end-to-end advice experience. We capture great well-being and values data, but we know our advice professionals want to be able to play back to clients, well, here's the things we're doing with that. Here's where my professional expertise comes in, and so we've developed key advice areas. So do you want to maybe talk us through what we're looking at here?
Yeah, of course. And I think once again, you've kind of summarized it perfectly. This is the almost the next natural extension of what that end-to-end workflow and engagement journey looks like with a client. So you've understood the client, you've kind of mapped out some goals that the client has, whether their needs, wants, or wishes. And now it comes to the implementation side, which is to kind of go, well, now that we know all this information about you, how are we actually going to put this into practice? How are we going to realize this? And so the whole idea behind this module, which we call key advice areas or strategies for short, is to have a number of kind of key areas, whether they be debt management, cash flow management, whether they be about education planning, etc. And then within each of those, you can either pick a defined strategy that you've already defined for your practice. We've got a default set that we provide out of the box out of Lumiant, but obviously you will want to customize this. Or you can actually enter one in yourself. So you can create your own strategy, as you can see on the screen, and basically you're capturing the information about how you are going to bring all of that to life. Once again, coming back to that whole messaging of building a really strong foundation and building on top of it. We had a lot of feedback about clients wanting this capability of being able to add strategies for clients. But so we wanted to kind of get that out into their hands as quickly as possible. So right now, you can define those key areas. You can define all those strategies. You can put templates behind each of them. That way, all of your advisors in your practice are using those same templates for their clients. You can enable these key areas or not for your clients. So effectively, you're scoping the advice areas that you're going to be working on with that particular household, and you can basically assign certain strategies. The very next iteration, which we're kind of thinking is kind of next couple of weeks, is to then be able to link a strategy to a goal. Or to also link it to a number of tasks. So straight away, that thread that we started from life into values into goals now goes all the way into strategies, and you can see exactly what strategies you've employed, which are supporting which goals, which values, and what are the tasks that are supposed to be being worked on in order to achieve that goal. So we're seeing this as a real kind of a strong thread end to end, from understanding your client through to the implementation and execution of that advice.
Yeah, the current functionality, you log in today as an advice professional using Lumiant. You can use our key advice areas. You can use our key strategies that are in there. But if you're the practice manager, you go up to your gear icon on the top right-hand corner, and you can navigate to key advice areas and change them to your own terminology. You can change the amount that you have. We know that not everyone has 12 areas that they give advice on. Maybe they have nine areas or 6, whatever that might be. You can absolutely do that. There's a couple of little intricate things as we were testing this with our innovation hub and advisors that give us feedback on this all the time. You'll notice that you can have active advice areas and inactive advice areas. And that was really important to our advice professionals to say, look, I'm helping you with 4 out of the 10 things that I could help you with. And a really classic example might be, say, education planning or aged care planning. They're not right now strategies, but in 5 years, you can come back to me, that I can help with this stuff. So they can sort of show to their clients their breadth of expertise so that clients know who to come back to if something happens. Chris, I love that we're thinking in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be able to link the goals, which will then automatically link their values and then set the tasks. It's that parent hierarchy that we're looking to achieve all the way through. So, if I have an area of well-being that I need help with, that obviously sets my values. My values help turn my intangible thoughts into tangible goals. My goals then require strategies to achieve them. And then to achieve that strategy, I may need to do tasks, right? So, this one here, I think I'm about to enter in a superannuation rollover. There we go. The task might be go and execute the application, right? And that helps a client go, right, that's the thing I've got to do post this meeting. So it is creating that thread throughout the entire system. Where do you see key advice areas going next? I know all our advisors that have tested this for us go immediately to things like terms of engagement letters. You know, we've started to get that. Is that where you see this going next?
Absolutely. So that one we've had on the cards for a while now. You know, because we are effectively scoping advice here by, you know, turning things on and off. It kind of naturally lends itself to be able to produce that document, that advice scoping document to your clients. We will need some other information, and this is where we would love to kind of get feedback on. You know, the obvious one that comes to mind is you know, capturing fees in the platform, so that way they can automatically be put into the document. We also know that we will need to have some sort of compliance and disclaimers and the like in there, so that way we're kind of reflecting your position, but we're also doing it in a tone of voice that and a brand that represents you, so that it doesn't look like a, you know, completely different document that you wouldn't give to your clients. So that's the obvious one. The other one that I would love to get to, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer, which is more the execution side of it. So, you know, you said that, you know, you have these tasks to open an account. What can we do to actually automate that? You know, there's a whole range of things that we can start plugging into. What's that next thing outside of Lumiant that you're using over here that we can kind of kickstart and monitor along the way?
Great. Thanks, Chris. You know, as with governance, if there's any questions on, you know, current functionality of key advice areas or where we want to take it next, any suggestions, pop them in the Q&A box. We'll absolutely save some time for them at the end. But let's move now to our next feature that we've turned on for you. Some of you might have even noticed in the top right-hand corner, if you haven't been into Lumiant yet this week, in our little videos, a little bell in the top right-hand corner, which means we got some notifications in the platform now, Chris. So do you want to maybe talk us through the notifications feature, current state, and where we want to get to next?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one has been asked for, and we've kind of, you know, had in the back of our heads as really a critical feature of the platform. If we're really serious about making Lumiant that place where clients and advisors coexist and work together on things. The only way to kind of, you know, hold people to account, to keep people on top of things, is to make sure that we've got two things. One is a nudge, and the other one's a notification. And they're kind of fundamentally the same. The delivery mechanism kind of changes. So what we've been spending a bit of time on is building that fundamental foundation of how do we do real-time push notifications out to our clients. Initially, obviously, through the web application. In the near future, I hope to be talking to you about an application that you might see on your mobile phone, or potentially your watch on your wrist. And the fundamental premise is the same, which is we want to contact you about what's important to you in life, where you happen to be. And we know that that's not always going to be online. Quite often it will be, you know, when you're out and about, and we want to kind of notify you of those things. So what we've done initially is we've got that base real-time push notifications architecture in place, and we've started with some fairly obvious kind of things. So as an advisor, you will be notified whenever your clients have completed one of the modules, or they've changed some, you know, they've gone in and run a best life scenario, just so that you're aware of those sort of things. We've also included things like birthdays. So, you know, if there's a birthday coming up for one of your clients, you'll be notified that. If your client is going to retire in the next 12, 6, 3 months, you'll be notified of that. If the client has completed one of their tasks, or they've changed, or they've done something to bring themselves closer to achieving their goal, you'll be notified of that. The whole idea there is so that, once again, you're constantly up to date with what your clients are actually doing. Likewise, not just positively, but also, you know, if their well-being score suddenly kind of drops, notify you of that so that you're aware, so that you can then kind of have a look at why did it drop, and straight away you can kind of either call up that client or have a conversation about kind of what's next, or say congratulations, thanks for completing these tasks. You've now met this milestone, which is really important to you. So really cool kind of feature. We've started with basically a handful of notifications. As with everything else, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to continue to expand the types of notifications that are being sent out. If there are any particular kind of trigger points or any kind of key moments that you would like to know about, let us know. They're very easy to build into the platform and add in there.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, we've all got laundry lists internally. I know we all speak about this, and we're all like, it'd be great if we could notify this. It'd be great if we could notify that. Or wouldn't it be great if we could nudge a client to do this? We've got a huge laundry list here internally at Lumiant, but our advice professionals are the ones on the ground listening to clients, wanting to create experiences for their clients around their well-being, and they're living their best life. So if you've got ideas for how you want us to nudge based on the data that you can see in the system, please send them through to myself, Elise, and we can sort of collate them all together. The more that we can iterate this platform and this functionality, now we've got it to help you enhance your client experience, the better. So I want to save some time for questions at the end. So we're halfway through, or just over halfway, of our new features. Let's move now to our enhancement of your life. So internally we call this Life 2.0, but to you guys it's your life. We've got some cool enhancements for this, mainly based off feedback, right? So people that have been using this for a while have always said to us, it'd be great if we could tell clients what it is that this survey is meaning and what it means for them in their aspects of life. So Chris, do you want to maybe talk us through some of the enhancements to your life and what people can expect to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see here, there's a number of changes that have been made from a more a user experience point of view up front. One of the pieces of feedback that we've been receiving is, how can you make this simpler? Having to click and then click on, click all over the place is hard. Can we somehow minimize that? Can we make it as simple and as enjoyable as a questionnaire can effectively be? And so the overall, from kind of start to finish, the questionnaire experience has been simplified to make it a lot easier to kind of engage with. Ash, if you can pause on that particular screen. This is really the big one, though, that I think that's worth kind of highlighting. Previously we gave you roughly the same sort of data, minus the top two areas and top and bottom two areas, effectively on the left-hand side, and we kind of just gave you the information and said, well, your score is X, and that was kind of useful, but it was kind of left up to the advisor to then have that conversation around what does that actually mean, and some of the feedback has been, is 48 a good score? And the whole point here is there's no such thing as a good score or a bad score. It's just your score. This is a reflection of what happens to be important to that particular client. As the research shows, there are 8 dimensions of well-being. Not all 8 are going to be important to everyone. So we kind of illustrate it in this way to kind of show you your unique fingerprints of what's important to you, and then kind of overlay that with based on what's important to you, here is how you're actually tracking towards that. Are you doing well, or is this an area where it's important to you, but you're not doing very well, and therefore your financial professional can really come in and actually help you in that particular area. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of extract out of here was take out that presumption that the advisor has to kind of know and explain all of this information, and actually just present it. Make it as simple as possible to kind of be able to look at the data in front of you and kind of go, yeah, I get it. That's my score. That's kind of who I am. That's what's important to me. That's how I'm going. And oh, great, these are the top 2 areas, and these are the areas that I probably need the most amount of assistance with, or I need to focus on the most. So a really great piece of feedback, which has taken the same sort of data which we had previously, but just brought up that user experience of it to be able to go, and now I feel a lot more confident about what the system is telling me. I kind of know what the next step is, because the system has told me that there's no kind of room for interpretation. So yeah, this is the sort of stuff that I kind of love, make it as simple as possible, make it as intuitive as possible, make it as engaging as possible, because if you've got clients that are engaged, you're going to have much richer conversations and much more engaged conversations about what's next, because they kind of get it. If you want to play the rest, the rest of the video is just kind of showing you the kind of workflow through it all, which once again, as you can see, has just had a facelift, as you might call it, just to kind of bring that all into place. One thing worth touching on, as we kind of focus on client experience and all the rest of it, that spider chart, whilst it's something that I personally really like, and it's obvious to me, we have had feedback that actually there are better ways of highlighting that. And once again, something that you'll see in the next couple of weeks, and we'll give you a heads up about this, is we found a much nicer, a much simpler illustration of that same set of information, which effectively puts into quadrants. And as anyone who has seen those sort of quadrant charts, what's in the top right is the most important, and what's in the bottom left is the least important. And it just gives you that same level of information, but once again in a much more clear manner.
Yeah, one thing that I've learned going through this entire experience with the design team and working with the Innovation Hub is, some of the simplest changes make a huge difference. So, bringing the 2 previous progress and importance graphs together into one spider chart, makes a huge difference. It immediately backs up the experience and the conversation the advisors wanted to have, which is really only wanting to talk about the top 2 things that you're doing really well and the top 2 things that you can work on, because the hero of that conversation is actually the values conversation, and your life enables you just to get a bit of a precursor and a sense check of where you're at. The other thing that might be really simple but will have a huge difference is one of the things we do at Lumiant is we watch recordings of surveys being executed and the platform being used. And one of the behaviors that we noticed with our clients when they were doing surveys is they would get to the end of the survey, go, oh, that's my score, and then try to go back and change it, because a better score it means I've got a better life, right? Which sort of defeats the purpose. So that whole positioning of, the score is what the score is. It's a baseline. It's where you're at today. That's okay. It is really small, but might have a huge impact for clients based on how we've seen them using it. The cool thing is everything else you love about your life, so your voice to text, all the answers coming through are all still there. As Chris mentioned, it's just all had a little bit of a facelift, and our design and front end team will probably also like us to mention that there's even little things like how the questions sort of blink and go across when you're in the survey that might be to the untrained eye really minuscule, but make a huge difference to how people interact with the engagement of the survey. I just want to check in, Elise, do we have any other questions that have come through so far on your life or anything, the features, before we finish with Values 2.0?
No questions have come through so far, but I thought one that I might throw out to you is, I guess, with the changes, obviously it does an amazing job of highlighting a few different conversations that you can have with the client and picking out, as you said, top 2 areas and also the 2 areas that need to be improved. But I guess just quickly, what would be the best way to have that conversation with the client? Is there a particular way that you would frame that with the client? I thought some of the attendees might be interested in that.
Yeah, lovely. I can take this one. So if we go back to the core intent of the life module, right, it's to help get that sense check pre-review or initial discovery meeting of how a client feels about their total areas of well-being, not just their finances, right? We like to think of it as sort of like a fulfillment check-in. How fulfilled are they feeling in all those areas? To that end, you could really unpack this and spend heaps of time on the Your Life survey, but we know where the crux of time is best spent is in the value session. So the challenge here is, how do you get the most out of the information, because it's important, right? And also do it in a way that precursors the values conversation. So how we think about it and how you may want to think about it within your conversations with clients is firstly checking in, right? That survey, and everyone here knows that the Lumiant experience is different to traditional advice experiences, right? That survey will be different to what customers, if they've been through an advice experience before, are used to. So checking in, how did it feel, would be a great question to start with. What came up for you as you were going through it? Did it feel right? Did it resonate? How did it feel between you two individually? Just those check-in questions, whilst they might seem insignificant, will be really important, because if you're doing it for a prospect at the start of your advice experience, it'll help you get a gauge of how engaged they are with your way of doing things, right? Because the values-based advice experience is a little bit different. So once you go from there, utilizing the data now that comes out around their top 2 areas of well-being and their top areas of opportunity are where you probably want to anchor in on. So celebrate with them. Hey, you're doing really well in these 2 areas. Does that feel right? You want to check in. Did the survey get it right based on their responses? Do you feel like you're in control of your finances if financial well-being is one of them? So you want to test and validate that, but don't ever miss the opportunity to celebrate, because you're about to unpack their life. You're about to, give them all these things they need to do. We need to celebrate the little wins. Then the next thing is getting into those top areas of opportunity. So what the survey tells me is that you maybe don't feel as confident as you would like to about, let's say if it's spiritual, the time you spend volunteering or living a life full of purpose. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Does that feel right? And checking in on that as well. Once again, you probably want to stay surface level with your life and just making sure that that feels right. Because the segue here is to go, great, if that's where your head's at, we'll absolutely unpack that more in the values conversation. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And it's that really nice segue into the values conversation, because as you all know, the areas of well-being inform the values, and then the values that we've got there for clients to pick enables us to go that little bit deeper and understand what's most important to them and what's driving their behaviors. Great question, Elise.
I would also add one thing, Mark.
Yeah.
It might be worthwhile doing. We talk about this whole thread between each of the modules, and to your point, one module kind of informs the next. Whilst we say there isn't a linear path. They support one another. One thing that I found really useful in that is if you know that, for example, spirituality is an area that they've highlighted as an area that they don't feel as confident in as some of the others. But then you start the values conversation and they haven't picked any of the values cards representing spirituality. Awesome opportunity to kind of go, hey, is it just because it's further down your list, or have we kind of really explored why there's a mismatch between the two?
Yeah, I love that. It's the opportunities are endless with your life. It's this great, on average it takes someone 7 minutes to do, this great 7-minute exercise that gives you so much insight. We've even had practices think about, okay, if someone fills that out and they've got a distinct opportunity in, let's call it, physical or spiritual, that there might be an advisor that's a specialist in those areas, right? At helping people live a life with purpose, or, when it comes to spiritual, that's about volunteering, right? So there might be a philanthropic specialist within the advice business. So, aligning the right specialist early to the right client is an opportunity off the back of getting this done as well. This is where it's so simple, but so beneficial.
Brilliant.
So, we'll save, maybe 10 to 5 minutes for questions at the end, but let's go into Values 2.0. This has been live for a couple of weeks now. But even since then, we've got a couple little enhancements that are really important. Chris, do you want to maybe walk us through, for those that haven't had a chance to go in and play in Values 2.0, we know that this is one of the stars of the show. There's been a couple enhancements to this, and then we'll stop for Q&As.
Yep, awesome. So this is actually one where we run this innovation hub effectively, where we get a small dedicated group of financial professionals to kind of test things out, give us really rich raw feedback about what's working, what's not working, what could be improved, and all the rest of it. And so we spent quite a few weeks kind of walking through how to optimize the values conversation. You know, there was everyone universally loved this as a module and loved taking clients through this. However, one of the pieces of feedback was that, well, as wonderful as it is, it can take quite a long time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you may not always have an hour and a half to spend to kind of go through everything to that nth degree. And so we kind of took a look at how do we not lose any of the great value, any of the great insights. Let's not lose any of those really great conversations that we need to have throughout this process, but how do we kind of optimize the way in which we kind of do this? And how do we kind of get a few extra data points along the way? And so what you'll see in this module is, you know, the number of screens has been greatly reduced down just to the minimum amount to basically get you from, you know, one part of the exercise to the next. As you can see on the screen, for a second there, we now ask each partner individually how they feel that they are progressing towards that. So previously we would have a single score for the household, which was great, but one of the feedback items was, well, what happens if a client and partner are actually in disagreement with how they're progressing towards that goal? Because, you know, they just either they look at it differently or they feel differently about it, whatever it may be. So right now we're capturing things both at a household level, you know, this is what's important to you, but also how each individual feels towards that. One of the new features new enhancements that Mark just mentioned is we've also kind of split out the values session into two things. One, which is collecting information about your individual values, and then one about the combined household values. And it's now possible, if you wish to actually send out those individual clients to be completed ahead of time. And then actually once the client and partner have completed their individual values, you can then bring them into the office to unpack the responses that they've provided and take them through the really kind of powerful part of the conversation, which is, okay, now how do we get you on the same path, you know, in agreement to what your household top 5 should actually be? Because we certainly don't want to lose that part of the process. There's a lot of really rich data that comes out of it, but we just want to kind of optimize it so that you're kind of all of your time is focused on the value add part of that conversation, not the mechanics of them picking, you know, individual cards. Once again, you don't need to change your process. You know, if you wish to do the whole thing end to end with certain clients or all of your clients, you can do so. You've just now got the option to kind of go, you know what, for these clients, or, you know, for this segment of client, I'm actually going to send them off to do their individual values before I grab them on a call or bring them into the office to continue that conversation. Sorry, go Mark.
I was just going to say that flexibility was super important in terms of feedback. So being able to choose, you know, what clients would maybe do the values beforehand, and, you know, being able to do it individually in different places. We know, you know, people might be working remotely and things like that, and then you bringing them together on a Zoom, you know, and then sort of unpacking. It came down to a lot of it, you know, when you've got a time budget for a discovery meeting or a review meeting, where's your time as the advisor best spent? And the feedback was pretty loud and clear in the conversation, right? So not necessarily selecting of the cards, but going, tell me more. Why is that important to you? What is it that might have happened in your life or the life of a loved one that has made you pick that card as a top priority? We know that those conversations are deeply moving, emotional, and take time. So we wanted to give you the opportunity to spend as much time as you could doing that.
Yeah, brilliant. And
So,
yes, and some of the other UX issue items, as Mark mentioned, there's a more automated path through it. There's kind of little tweaks that have been put throughout there, which our design team could spend probably several hours explaining to you the great enhancements that have been made. But they are, when you go through it for the first time, it just feels more natural. It feels slicker. It's simplified. There's less barriers in the way, and so you end up having a much better experience because none of that kind of clunky stuff gets in the way. You can just kind of work through and understand exactly what's being asked of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really great tweaks. You've got a screen in there that helps you articulate the rules going into the meeting. We know that pre-positioning of what they're about to go through is super important. Little tweaks like when you're in the unpacking of the values, being able to add a quick goal directly related to that value saved users a ton of time, as opposed to going back into the goals module and then linking it manually to the value. It's automatically linked, and you can see in the values page now that it beautifully shows you that these are your values and these are the supporting goals next to it, so that you've got that thread. And even in that values page, you can add another goal linked to that value using our quick goal functionality. One of the things that we're thinking through consistently is, how do we support our advice professionals to complete the action that they want to complete within the page that they're on? So, if I'm on the values page and I want to complete a goal, then can we do that from the values page as opposed to having to go to the goals page and linking it? So we're consistently thinking through that. Being able to go back into the values module or the values page and select the value and seeing and moving quite simply whether they were a 5 last year to a 7 this year when you're in that review or progress meeting, as some like to call it. Being able to do that really simply so that you can support a progress meeting experience was important to us. So little enhancements wouldn't have been possible without your feedback and without us having a strong base. So when we have that strong base, we can consistently iterate and enhance the module to fit the use cases that you guys are continually stretching and thinking about when you're out there. So it's a really great example of the thanks that we have for you and your feedback. So with that, we've got 6 minutes left for any questions. Elise, do we have any coming through? And if not, I'm sure you've had many conversations with people over the last couple of weeks as we've been using these features. If there's any other questions top of mind, feel free to pop them through now.
Perfect. Nothing's come through as yet, but loved the comment from Wayne in regards to, calling it a progress meeting. And I think that really aligns with when you are going to go into the values dashboard and, you have the opportunity to update that progress each time. So definitely aligns with that part of the meeting conversation. Only thing that maybe popped to mind, which we didn't touch on, was just around the rules page. Maybe a little bit of background around what that actually means or why we've included that.
Yeah, the rules page is I don't know, I like to think of it as a fun one. So for anyone that spent time with Mark Tucci, our advice coach, who's done about 1 million of these back in his previous role, would know that setting up and pre-positioning the values exercise is super important, and getting them in the right headspace to do that. So the rules page allows you to sort of point and shoot. Ash is just getting it up on the screen right now. So it gives you the 4 key rules. I think Mark Tucci used to have only 3, but our Innovation Hub wanted an extra one in there, and we thought it was really good. But being able to say, look, we're about to go into an exercise, and this is a really important exercise for you and your partner to go through. But there are some rules to it so that we get the most value out of it. 4 key rules. The first one's no judgment, right? This is a really safe space. We're going to have some conversations here that maybe you haven't even had together before. So we want to make sure that this is a judgment-free zone. Everything that you say is okay, because we really want to understand that. And if the more that we can understand each other, whether it be the advisor and the spouse or the 2 spouses together, the more aligned our plan is going to be, and therefore the more chance of success it's going to have. No peeking, probably more a rule for if you're doing the physical card experience. On a digital screen, you can see what's going on, but effectively how we're positioning that is, look, everyone's individual cards are that, they're individual. So make sure that you choose your own in your own right, because we're going to come together and explain those together so that we can get an understanding of each other's priorities. No interrupting. I think Chooch would sort of run off a soccer yellow card system here. First interruption's a yellow card, second interruption's red, and you're in the office. But you'll find your own vibe with that. It's just about positioning that, look, I'm going to ask some questions of you, and I'm going to leave some space for you to answer those, and they're going to be pretty deep answers. But you as a spouse might feel the need to go, you haven't said that to me before, or why are you bringing that up? This isn't the time for that, right? The time for this is to sit, listen. I'm going to be listening. We want you listening to each other. The more that we allow each other space to have that conversation, the better answers we're going to get. And lastly, whilst it sounds really deep and meaningful, and no doubt it is, have some fun with it, right? We're going to have these conversations. It's going to make a better experience for all of us. At the end of the day, it is a card game. So, games are meant to be fun. Let's play around with it and get into it. So it does give you that space to, lighten the mood a little bit, but set the rules and foundations. We know some of our great users of this also do things like set timeframes and sort of set structures. This is absolutely the place that they can do that as well. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Elise. No other questions I don't think have come through?
No, nothing else.
Awesome. Well, look, it is lunchtime, so we'll give everyone the time to go have their lunch. But we want to say thank you for being part of the Lumiant community, being part of this exciting, innovative journey for us and for yourselves. We want to say thanks for all your support. And as always, Elise, our customer success team, our product tech, marketing, all of us here at Lumiant are here to support you. So if you want to walk through, Elise will be around. She can take you through these features, what it means for all your individual advice experiences. And if you've got any feedback or questions, you've got an idea for a nudge or a notification, you've got an idea of where you want to take the key advice areas next, please send them through. All these feature changes would not be possible without us knowing how you plan to use the modules. So we love your feedback. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.